All right, guys, we're going to try this again. We were interrupted earlier. Welcome to Uprise Astrology Podcast. My name is Aylin. I am an astrologer and I read tarot cards here on my channel as well. And let me just turn this off here real quick. And so we are going to be taking a look at the upcoming week. In particular, I am going to be focusing today on the new moon in Aries chart. So I am going to be pulling this up so that we can focus on that chart. It is going to be a very interesting new moon cycle that we are looking at. There is a lot of sort of discovery energy to this new moon in Aries and the pulse that it's going to basically give us all month long. If you're new to astrology, the new moon energy is an energy that is going to be lasting approximately 28 to about 29 days. This is going to be an energy that we're going to be working out all throughout the month. And so we're going to be examining what this energy is. What are some of the themes that we're taking a look at? And I'm going to break this down. So we're going to be focusing on that. And then at the very end, we are going to be pulling some collective tarot. And every week, what I do is I have a special dice here that I just roll to see what zodiac sign needs to hear the message for the upcoming week. So this is going to be for the next week. This is going to be a forecast that you can come back and watch to kind of figure out some themes if you want to, but predominantly the energy is going to be pretty much all month long. Right now, we're going to focus on some of the changes that are happening for next week in particular, though, in addition to this new moon. So I'm going to be sharing my chart here with you guys so that you can see and follow along with me. So here's the chart for the upcoming new moon in Aries. It is going to be April 1st on, April Fool's Day, which I thought was really, really interesting. I do not mind this new moon in Aries in particular. It is not a very bad like full moon or anything like that, or an energy that we need to be cautious about per se. There are some situations here, I think, where the astrology is basically telling us that we are going to be moving beyond a realm of comfort. I'm going to get to that in just a moment. But I just feel like that this, in general, this month is going to be a lot of discovery, a lot of learning based on being in action, which leads me to the Aries energy anyway. So we see the planets alongside with this new moon here. This is a really strong Aries energy initiation, okay, on April Fool's Day. Now, this is going to be a new moon at 11 degrees. Now, new moons, you've heard before, new beginning. In general, it is a time that just initiates a new sort of phase that we're in. Perhaps there are some things we're still working on from the old phase, but this is going to be in particular a phase that is going to be focusing on discovery. Discovery on what? On actions and reactions. Why do I say that? Because of course we're taking a look at the Aries energy, but in particular with this new moon, it is at 11 degrees. So it has a lot to do with emotions and what is being sort of reflected back to us. So we're going to feel our way through a lot of our actions and reactions this month based on the degree that we are seeing here at 11 degrees. So if you're new to my channel, I love focusing on the degrees because I feel like that the degrees give us very specific information in addition to looking at the planets. So 11 degrees has a lot to do with, I've mentioned this on my channel before in other videos. I always have this vision of gates, walking through gates, like having sort of a moment where you feel that something either feels right or something doesn't feel right. And so you're coming back into balance. You're coming back into alignment with how you feel and what really speaks true to your heart. That is sort of the Aries energy here. Okay. Now, Aries in general cardinal fire. It is a passionate sign. It is a sign and a theme that has a lot to do with determination. But in particular, with this new moon, what I'm predicting is that we will be focusing on themes of bravery. We'll be focusing on themes of just, doing the work, putting the work in. Aries is a lot about pioneering, putting, laying down sort of the path that we want to walk on. And it is going to be truly that kind of a theme during this month. Now, Aries energy can also have a lot to do with being very assertive. Sometimes this assertion can also turn into some kind of aggression, right? There could be sort of this level of annoyance or this level of, feeling sort of like impatient around this new moon. Now, in particular, this new moon, we see two other planets that is accompanied with this new moon, and that is going to be the planet Chiron, which I talked about in the last video. So if you want to go back, I will link that video somewhere in the description box. If you want to go back, Chiron right here is with this new moon. It is going to be at 12 degrees. And then we also have Mercury. Now let's start with Chiron. Chiron at 12. This is going to be a planet that is going to be representing with this new moon that we're going to be discovering a lot about our identity. This has a lot to do with moving from an old identity into a new identity, but it is based on what we're learning about it, what we're discovering. And then as a result, it is going to make a shift in what it is that we're believing. That is the degree that it's in. So we're working this out all month long. We're going to get down to the root cause of some of our actions. Sometimes it could be a non-action. Maybe there was something that we didn't take action on for a really long time. And so now we're going to take action on it. But at the same time, we're going to learn a lot about the actions or the non-actions based on how we are reacting. And this reaction has a lot to do with some kind of discovery about our identity or a past version of who we were, or what has happened during that time that is very distinct or has a lot of sort of non-favorable memories around it. Okay. You will hear a lot in astrology that Chiron has to do with the wounded healer, and healing comes in many, many different ways. But in particular with this new moon, the healing kind of that we're going to be doing has a lot to do with discovery and learning from our very own sort of experience that we are going to be making all month long. Now, we also see Mercury here. Mercury is going to be at 9 degrees. Obviously, it's going to start, moving up in degrees here. But at the time of the new moon, what does that mean? Well, Mercury is giving us sort of this intellect or this very rich insight into how we're functioning, into our very own, mechanisms, into how we are actually thinking and then how we're feeling as a result of it. I would also go a step further and say that I am interpreting this kind of a pulse all month long as a way where we are going to be noticing based on the reactions that we're going to have or we are going to be receiving from others, that now we are realizing we've been hanging out in our heads and our minds for too long. And we perhaps have been missing out on how we actually feel. More on that later. Okay. But that is sort of a theme here that is happening this month. Now, the ruler of this new moon is Mars. And where is Mars? Mars is over here together with two other planets, a total of 3 planets that is going to be in Aquarius. Now, the very first thing that I want to point out here is that all 3 planets are going to be at higher degrees. So, and this is going to be a time where I think that we are going to see a lot more involvement in our environment. We're going to see a lot more involvement with others because there is a higher degree here. At higher degrees, there's more involvement in my observation amongst relationship dynamics. And so Mars here is going to be at 19. in Aquarius at the time of the new moon. We see Saturn at 22, and we also see Venus at 25. So there is something to be said about this Aquarius energy that is like a hyper focus. We actually have been in this hyper focus energy almost since January. We have been in this energy where we've been hyper focused. We've been putting all of our attention into certain aspects of our life, really working it through. And so what's happening this month is that Mars is sort of moving on. Mars is coming into a place where it is going to start to make some, hard like stops, or it is going to start to make some decisions to cut certain things, sort of out. And what is that? Well, it has a lot to do with where we feel like that our energy needs to be now, where we feel like that our energy has to be, and we're going to take sort of action on it based on what we feel to be true within ourselves. Now, Saturn here at 22 in Aquarius, that is an energy where we're sort of ready to kind of break down certain things in our life that used to be a comfort zone, is no longer a comfort zone. We don't want this anymore, and we have to master certain things. And so Saturn, in a way, is in a force and an energy here where we're going to break that down. And then Venus is climbing up in the higher degrees. It is at 25 at the time. Venus in Aquarius can have a little bit of this hot, cold kind of, energy, especially with Saturn and Mars there. We are wanting to work through the long term. We're wanting to understand the bigger picture. We want more value. We want more depth, not only in our relationships, but anything that is in relation to our life. And so what we're noticing here with Venus in Aquarius as well is that there is a rich sort of experience, insight into our own behaviors that will ultimately result in us, understanding how we operate, understanding where we need to make these cuts in order to, move on. Because there's a moving on energy with Aries. Aries wants to reach a goal. And this energy right here between Mars, Saturn, and Venus, it can be sort of a hot, cold kind of energy. But at the same time, we're wanting to master an aspect of our life that feels like it's been there for a really long time, and we just don't want it to be that way anymore. There's a determination and a hyper focus to make things, be different. Now, why is that with this particular, energy for this month? Why is there such a hyper, focus? That is also because, there is a big theme here, especially this year, with the two planets that we see here with Jupiter and, Neptune together. They're conjunct at the time, not at exact degrees, but they're, conjunct. And so there is sort of a visionary type of theme behind this energy with this new moon in Aries. It's a vision that we have. It's a belief that we have. Sometimes this belief can be an illusion. Turns out later that, we were thinking maybe I don't want to say in the wrong terms, because it's a very big energy in vision. So we're reaching further than we maybe ever have in what we think could be, possible. These two planets bring together sort of this idea that something could be a particular way, and we get this vision or this imagination around it. And sometimes it turns out, do you dream bigger than, right now? Are you going to dream bigger than what you ever thought, could be true for you and your story and your life? And so that is the energy right here. At the same time, this energy can also be an energy where we have to be a little bit, we have to sort of take a step back. Is this real? This grand vision that we have about our lives. What are the actual steps to get there? Who do we actually have to be in order to make that kind of a vision happen in our life? And there has to be sort of like an action plan behind it. And that is what I believe this Aries energy is going to help us to kind of determine this month. And so the key aspect here, the challenge is to not give into feelings or fears around, whether this can happen or not. There's sort of this fear. Is this going to work out? Is this going to happen? Is this the right thing to feel? Is this the right way to go about, things? Am I making the right decisions? Am I doing the right things every day in order for me to, live my life? There is a fear here of feeling even certain things, but this month it's sort of pouring out. Okay, it's sort of an energy where it is pouring out. We can't hold it back anymore. It's going to happen. It's going to come out so that we can discover. So we have to live through it. That is the kind of energy here that I'm picking up from everything we just discussed. Now, I do want to dive into a couple of other things that are happening that I think are worth to mention for this upcoming week. This next week, we are going to have a shift in the nodes. This is going to happen towards the end of the week. The nodes are at 23 degrees, and they're going to start to shift into 22. And I'm just going to go forward in the dates. So we see that happening here on the 3rd. That's going to be on, from Saturday into Sunday. The nodes are switching from 23 into 22, and they're going to stay here for a while. So this is a big shift. They're going to stay here for a while. They're also forming a square to the Aquarius energies, which is huge because this is, again, that hot, cold kind of energy. This is where we might feel a little bit reactionary. We want something to happen. Perhaps we feel like it might not be happening, or there's a part of us that wants to really make this change, but we have to kind of pay attention to how fast we want things to go, one step at a time. That's how I'm interpreting this, one step at a time. We have to take action, and we have to be mindful of the consequences of our actions. Saturn at 22, that is, you're either going to just up level or you're going to break down the energy based on the actions that you're taking, based on how well you're also receiving, right? Are you in a place, because Venus at 27, that is a receiving energy to be in action. How well do you receive? How well do you, how open are you actually to being in a particular energy or vibe or frequency or feeling to your life? How open are you really to all of that? And are you willing to take action? Are you willing to explore? At this time, Mars will be at 21 when the nodes are, switching. This is going to be us like making a decision if we're ready to discover even more beyond the realm of what we know. So we have to step out of the comfort zone is what I'm trying to say. Okay. These are the planets that are going to definitely have that conversation with the nodes. Now, the nodes, let's go back to that real quick. I kind of got sidetracked a little bit. Okay. So the nodes, we have the South Node in Scorpio. We have the North Node in Taurus. If you're new to astrology, the South Node in Scorpio is going to be a realigning of where we need good boundaries, what's true about those boundaries, what is the general truth, depending on where it's happening in your chart, and where do we have to kind of put our foot down and be adamant about holding that truth, making that truth happen, and then also making sure that the boundaries are solid. Okay. We have to trust this process of the boundaries, putting it into place, because those boundaries are then going to align us with better values. That is what we're working through right now, all year long, because the North Node is in Taurus. Now, when the node and then when the North Node and the South Node are at 22, this is when we're going to now start to realize, okay, we have this grand vision. There are things that we're wanting to make happen, but this is a caution energy. in my opinion, here at 22 degrees. This is a caution energy to, again, like I said before, what are we reacting to? What is it that we're wanting? Why do we want it? Does it have the boundaries that it needs? Is that going to give us the value that we're looking for? Is this going to up level us? Is this going to give us a quality of life that we have imagined? Or is this something that we have to be, cautious about? Because with 22, the degree 22, in my opinion, is an energy where we have sort of this realization that we can make things happen if we understand who we are in our own, in our own self, in our own heart, that we understand that we have the power to turn things around. That is 22. Okay. We understand not only our own perspective, but we're understanding the perspective of the circumstance or the people around us. So we have sort of this understanding that we have the power to make a change, to turn our life in a direction that seems to be chaos or seems to be a breakdown, which 22 can be. 22 can be chaos. It can be a breakdown. It is an energy that has a lot to do with anything can happen here, because the emotions are not always very stable at 22, because we have to sort of discover how we really feel and what is mine and what is the emotion from the outside source or the other person. There has to be a distinction between what's mine, what's out there. That's 22. It can be that number. But because there is a distinction, if you kind of can grab onto that, what is mine, what is the outside influence, what happens is that there is this incredible amount of understanding and depth and insight that we can have to making something, so good, making it or turning it for the better. If it seemed to be chaotic, we now make it something super stable. So at 22, we're going to be here for a while. We're going to be taking a look at, are the boundaries stable? Are they not stable? We're going to see this in the world as well, right? Are the resources right now and the boundaries to our resources, are they stable? Are the things that provide us value and security and stability, which is the Scorpio, Taurus kind of axis here, that conversation between the nodes, is it creating us stability and value and boundaries and trust and a safe zone? Or are they not? Right? What is the truth about all of that? This is a realigning. Okay. So this is an opportunity here to take a look at things that need to break down, or letting things break down and letting things actually be in a place where they're maybe not as favorable, but we have to see that side in order to discover how we sit, what side we sit on. What is the truth about that for ourselves? What is the necessity? What is the need that we have? And what do we absolutely are not willing to compromise on, where then the boundaries come into play? So the nodes are going to be there. Okay. They're switching into that. Now, the other thing that is interesting here is that Uranus, moves to 13 degrees. And I just want to go back here. There it is. The same day as the nodes are switching, Uranus moves to 13 degrees. 13 degree is a degree of power. Okay. A power that is used in the day-to-day living, a power that we hold within ourselves, based on how we are discovering, how we're learning, how, we are believing, how we're expanding every single day, things that we're doing every single day. Okay. So Uranus here in Taurus definitely speaks to necessities we have right now based on resources, okay, based on stuff that we're sourcing. And this can be anything from, food to something tangible to something physical. So at 13, we are looking at themes of power, something that is very powerful, a powerful resource, something that is extremely, empowering. And is there a breakdown in that? We have breakdown numbers, okay? We have breakdown degrees here. So 22 can be a breakdown, 13 can be a breakdown of power, and then also of just having a distinction. What's the emotion behind that? What's mine? What's yours? And so this is a very interesting time. We're moving into discovering based on our action and reaction. So to sum it up, as I said earlier, we have this this theme right now all month long where we are to learn, how to perhaps not only better listen to ourselves, but also to other people based on what it is that we're discovering about ourselves. So it makes us a bit more, I think we're going to come out on the other side of this month being a little bit more empathetic towards ourselves if we use this energy wisely. So what is this energy really good for? This energy is really good for to stay open to making further changes based on what it is that you're discovering about yourself all month long. Okay. And to not be so harsh on yourself. So that's the energy that I'm seeing as far as the astrology goes. And now the next thing we're going to do is we are going to be taking a look at the collective tarot. So let me just pull up my cards. These cards I've been using now for every single one of the lives. And I just want to show, if you're new, if you're, by the way, new to this channel, make sure you subscribe. I hope that you like the forecasts that I'm providing. Make sure that you subscribe. And then if you want to be notified for new forecasts that I'm putting out, ring that bell. Okay. This tarot deck is called the Universe Illusion. And it's just a beautiful deck that has a lot of 150 images. And so I'm going to shuffle this and we're just going to take a look at any other collective messages that we need to hear about. What are some of the messages maybe, or some more insights that we need to know about next week? Okay, so let's take a look. All right, so the image that we see here is an old-fashioned camera, and it has fall. Okay, it has fall, a fall, so it's like a leaf. It has, it lays on an open book with coffee. There's some pumpkins here, and that is like an image of pumpkins there. So it kind of looks like, someone who, there's a coffee cup here as well on this side. So it kind of looks like an image of someone who is about to grab their camera to go capture some images, but it's fall time. And so it's a time where our emotions are, are about to cool off, where we are to take our emotions and take consideration of the other person, right? Fall. Now, the camera to me represents an insight into an old image, an old picture, just because of the type of camera we're taking a look at. So right now, we are going to go back, I think, to take a look at some old images. And these old images have maybe something to do with last fall. Think about last fall. Think about what happened during that time, in particular in your relationships, in particular in, very important relationship dynamics. And the word that comes up here is something that you were missing out on. That is what is coming up here. Because when we are taking pictures, we're capturing a moment, right? And so right now, it's really interesting for next week. What I'm getting from this is that there may have been something that we're missing out on. And we're gonna realize this. We didn't capture it, or we want to capture this moment. But it has to do with something we've been working through since last fall. and we don't want to miss out on this anymore. We may have to put something into our life that is worthy of taking a picture, okay? Worthy of a time. Maybe we're going to remember this kind of a time. I hope that this all makes sense, what I'm saying. And then the coffee, it's, to me, this is an image of a morning time. So this is when it's kind of like very fitting with the Aries energy, because when we think about the Aries energy, it's a morning energy. It's an initiation energy. Even during fall, fall, Libra represents the initiation as well, right? Cardinal signs. So there is a lot of action that we are going to start taking next week that has a lot to do with us not wanting to miss out anymore. There's a part of us that doesn't want to miss out. And perhaps we have to ask the question, have we been missing out on a particular, worthy moment or worthy thing or worthy situation or a feeling that we have been putting aside and we can't put it aside anymore? That's what I'm seeing here with this card. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to move on to is I am going to be, I have this Astro Dice, and we are going to roll or shake up this dice in my little, container over here. And we're going to see what sign comes up, and we're going to read cards for that specific sign. So let's do it. I'm just going to go ahead and shake this up. I can't believe it. Beautiful. Aries. Happy birthday to all my Aries friends out there. Happy birthday. Everybody who is in the zodiacal sign of Aries, this is your time. What a time this is going to be for a lot of you. So we're going to pull cards. I have 2 decks. The first deck I'm going to use is the Morgan Greer one. I love this deck. It's a beautiful deck. I haven't used it in a while, so I felt inspired to use it for this week. So these messages are going to be for all Aries, Sun, Moon, and Rising. What's coming up for you guys? Let's see. The first card that fell out here, the Wheel of Fortune. Wow. Okay, Aries, I feel like there's a couple of situations that are coming up here next week. There's a situation that is going to be occurring here that feels like it has to do with, it has to do with money. It has to do with a situation that you have been waiting on. You have been waiting. You have been patiently waiting, at times impatiently waiting on the situation. Okay. You felt that it wasn't going to go anywhere. Okay. And it didn't at times. Has to do with money. It has to do even money right now. Okay. It has to do with money. It has to do with you realizing something very important about yourself. And that is what you want in regards to money. What do you want in regards to money? Especially if you're in Aries rising, the nodes are going through a 2nd and the 8th house. Okay, so what is it about money right now that you're kind of in a waiting period? And that is what I feel like with this Wheel of Fortune, you're realizing. It's really interesting because this Wheel of Fortune, something is going to turn into an opportunity, but not until you make this insight. This is what the Wheel of Fortune is about. How interesting. Okay. We also see the 9 of Swords. Okay. So the 9 of Swords, this is going to be an interesting energy as well. And the reason this is an interesting energy is because how you think ties into you're almost like you feel like there is a lack in your life when it comes to certain luxuries or certain money situations, is something that you're trying to accomplish with money. What is it that you want? Because what you want requires for you to make a step. And that step has a lot to do with you opening up to what it is that you want a bit more than where you're at right now. You're going to be at a crossroads at the end of next week. I'm going to pull a couple more cards. We're going to go a little bit deeper into this because this is such an interesting energy. You're going to be at a crossroads. You're going to have to make a decision. It's a slow build for you, even though the Aries energy is not a slow build energy. This is a slow building energy next week. Okay. Once you get to the decision, once you get to the choice, you're not going to turn back anymore. Okay. You're going to turn your back on certain ways in which you were relating to yourself and money, but you're not going to turn back to that place anymore. You're going to move forward and you're going to trust it. And that's what I'm seeing here. Okay. A part of you is afraid of relationship dynamics. Look at this. If you are in a committed partnership, then you are afraid that you might leave the partnership behind, or that it will not have the same kind of depth or richness, or something's going to change in the relationship. Maybe you will feel different, but really all of that isn't true. It's just a fear. It's a fear that you're going to feel that. It's a fear that it might happen that way, but it's not. You're thinking it and then you are fearing it, but that fear really isn't true. We see the Hermit card. This is a much needed sort of breakthrough into understanding not only the bigger picture, but understanding what you need to do. Okay. If you haven't had any clarity, you're going to get that clarity, but it comes through you feeling impatient on this money situation that you've been trying to turn around. And what a lot of you are going to be doing, I feel, is that you're going to make a decision to cut something out of your life to make a long-term gain. And this has a lot to do, it ties also into a relationship, ties into a partnership, or if you're on your own, it ties into maybe a relationship from the past that taught you something about money, or what have you learned in the past about money. But this Wheel of Fortune is unfolding all month long. Listen, Aries, it's unfolding all month long. It's not just this next week. Okay. What you realize is that you are the person right now that needs to make this decision. You know, you're at a crossroads. You need to make a decision when it comes to finances in order to improve the finances. Like, let's say you're dating someone. Maybe it's time for you guys to move in. You know, it makes sense for you guys to move in. Like, the relationship is already, you know, working. Now you take it to the next level, but there is sort of financial gain to it as well. Are you trusting yourself? You might be trusting yourself. Are you trusting the other person? This is another thing that's going to come up, because the Two of Swords relates to, there's the moon here. Okay. So there are certain thoughts that come up here that you might not trust. And what do you have to do in order to trust? You have to make a decision. You see the Page of Wands. You have to learn something about trusting this and moving towards a direction that you just don't know enough about until you open yourself up to it. Two of Cups. Got to open yourself up to it and reflecting upon it. Perhaps the fears. What's the worst case scenario right now? That's something that you need to ask yourself. I am going to pull one more card to clarify the Wheel of Fortune. I want to know what this Wheel of Fortune really in the end game is going to be about during this moon cycle. Yes. Queen of Pentacles. You can't make this up. You're going to be at the end of the month, the situation that you're going to be in when it comes to your finances, you're going to be so happy about the decision that you have made in order to move forward with your life in a particular way. But it has to do with you feeling really like you're in the driver's seat when it comes to this. There's a very specific thing here with money that in order for you to change this around, you have to open yourself up. Like, got to go into the areas that feel so scary to you right now. And it ties into relationship, ties into trust, ties into sort of opening yourself up in a way that you haven't before. And I know you're going to do it. That's here. You're going to do it, Aries. Okay. My last deck is a playing deck. If you're new to my channel, I do read the cards of truth. If you know nothing about the cards of truth, I highly recommend that you go to Nicole Rennie's channel. That's where I learned the cards of truth. She's an incredible teacher, incredible person. You want to check out the cards of truth if you want a little bit more background on these. Okay. That's a playing deck. And so the system I'm going to be kind of, using is called the cards of truth. So I'm going to read whatever card is falling out as one last spiritual message. Okay. All right. This is a energy where you have to cut out certain, I'm going to call it addiction to certain things in your mindset. Okay. So right now, the 7 of clubs for you is cut anything out that is over stimulating, over too much of your thoughts go into it. This could even be cutting out, taking a time out from social media, taking a time out from doing certain things as far as work goes, because you just need to take a step back and you need to recalibrate a few times this month, actually. So the 7 of clubs here can be a time where you need to cut this out. It could even be stopping certain subscriptions. It's really interesting, spiritual message for you. But overall, in general, you are going to realize that there is sort of this, something becomes too addicting or something becomes too much for you at this time. And it just takes all of your focus away from the things, from the goals you're trying to reach. And that is what the 7 of clubs is about. Okay. So these are all of the messages from my Aries sun, moon, and rising. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this forecast. Like I said, if you're here for the first time, subscribe, ring the bell, make sure that you hang out with me. I am going to be live next week, Friday. I will be giving a notification on when I'm going to be live. I'm kind of right now, like I said before, I'm playing around with certain, times. 11 o'clock worked out, 1 p.m. worked out. If you have any recommendations on what time frames work out for you, 11 or 1 p.m., I'm at Eastern Standard Time. So which one do you prefer? I want to know. Also, let me know how your week is going. You can always leave a comment below. And thank you again. If you want to work with me a little bit closer, you can check out anything that I offer in the description box below, or you can go to upriseastrology.com. And I will see you guys back